Okay, so here's video number of one, maybe many, I guess TBD. And the TBD is not determined by number of views, number of likes. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's all about whether I think I'm getting across to people what I think I need to get across to them. And in this case, this is a Blender tutorial. Why do we need another person out there doing Blender tutorials? Really, we don't. And to give you some context, I have been in the visual effects industry and animation industry for over 20 years. I've used Maya, proprietary software, 3D Studio Max haven't helped me, and a few others in there probably. And game engines, all that stuff. But I decided to my day job is still using proprietary software, but at home I wanted to use something free. I didn't want to pay a subscription, didn't want to do any of that stuff. So I decided to start learning Blender in earnest. I've been wanting to learn Blender for probably close to as long as Blender has been around. Never really found the time or energy or interest to invest in getting better. I've always said, okay, learn hotkeys, forget hotkeys, put Blender down for 6 months, a year, 2 years, pick it up again, learn hotkeys, forget hotkeys, etc. But I'm going to do it this time. And maybe you can come along with me. Maybe this will be the first and last time you hear of me. Even if I make more videos, you may go, this is stupid, I'm not interested. But anyway, what my goal is tell you what I'm learning, show you something that I just learned, something that's of interest to me, and maybe because it's usually project based. I'm not making tutorials for pretty tutorials. I'm making tutorials because hey, I learned something, I want to share it, and hopefully by me telling you, it's going to help me remember how to do the thing that I'm making a video over. So anyway, enough of that stuff. The head in the center of your screen is not me. It is the project that I'm currently working on. And I came across a problem. Actually, first let me describe this guy. There's a video or a movie from 2003, I think, called The American Astronaut. And I'm currently completely obsessed by it. I just got a DVD of it, so that's great. But online, you can only find like these 240p versions of it, which is why I have all these really crappy, blurry images of this guy. This is Henchman number 2, doing a great song. It's a musical, Western musical, space science fiction thing. And so I wanted to make some busts of the 2 henchmen that sing this great song. And this is a caricature. Again, a caricature because I can't make a great likeness. So I'm sticking with caricatures. But even caricatures are hard. So, and this is a work in progress, so stop judging. And let me tell you what, the problem I was trying to solve, the different ways I'm trying to approach it. So basically what I'm trying to do is give this guy hair. And it's hard to tell in these images, but since I've watched the DVD and it's much clearer, I can tell this guy has like kind of slicked back hair, kind of greasy looking hair. And originally with his buddy, henchman number 1, who is this save maybe okay, this guy. And originally I had done like a full-on hair, mustache, and stuff like that. And God, this guy looks horrible. But anyway, I had done a full-on hair mustache because I didn't know how to do hair and et cetera, which is why you see the hair stuff over here. And it looked okay, but I was trying to make a caricature, and also I thought, well, maybe I'm going to buy a printer, 3D printer, and print this guy out. You can't print out hair, so I was like, okay, I'll make a geometry version of the hair, and so went down this path, and then I decided, well, actually, I thought, well, maybe I'll do the same sort of deal with this guy. So this is this is horrible. So this is the hair I had. So and that's, I was noodling with it for a long time, and I'm sure there's some really fancy way to do it or some better way to do it, and I was sculpting and I was trying brushes and just was not liking it. So I thought, well, all right, I've seen videos out there showing me how to show you how to do hairs with curve paths or path curves, and I thought I'd go that route, and that's what I'm going to show right now. First, let me get rid of this gross hair here, and we'll just use the PRF here. And the first thing I want to do is get rid of all these little lights, because this is like sort of, this isn't the end result, of course, because I'm still sculpting it, but these are all the lights that are remnants from the other guy. So that's what's illuminating him. But we don't need to see them. So the way that you get rid of them is you go over to the viewport overlays and get rid of extras. And that gets rid of, if for some reason you do that and you still see like lines, you'll see like the lights will disappear and the camera will disappear, but you'll see lines that are visible. That's probably because you have relationship lines selected. So you can see here, relationship lines just needs to be off as well. So sometimes they're on, sometimes they're not. Anyway, so what I wanted to do is be able to give this guy some hair. And so I started goofing around, experimenting with that. And I'm sure you've seen videos. If you're looking for how to do hair, this is probably not your first stop. So this could be redundant, but I'm going to show you how I do it and what got me the results that I was interested in. And just to let you know, I have not finished doing a hair. I just like, okay, this looks like what I want to do, so I'm just gonna make a video about what seems to be working. So anyway, so this is like the kind of the result. Let me show you a few of these. So anyway, so this is, again, this is not intended to be the complete hair. This is just experimentation. So anyway, so what you need to do is first make sure you're in object mode. Press Shift A and go to curve, and there's a path curve. So the thing you want to do is, I'm going to click it. It's at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so that's this orange thing. So I'm going to move it up a little bit, and there we go. All right, I'm going to move this over to the side for now, and I don't think I'm going to need it anyway. Okay, so what you have is a curve, and you go into edit mode, because what you want to do is you want to get rid of these curves. This is a weird, sort of what I think is kind of a weird thing about Blender, is that in order to, rather than having a tool where it's, hey, I want to just draw a path, you have to create a path, delete it, so you go into edit mode, and then you select your vertices, and then you press delete. And then you delete vertices. And you're like, okay, so now I have nothing. Now what? Well, first thing we do, well, actually, so now that we have none, that's basically just getting rid of all the vertices, but there's still the container for the path. And so what we want to be able to do is just draw lines on this guy's head that represent curves. Because what we're going to do is use those curves to generate geometry along that curve based on the outline of a circle or some other curve shape. I'll get to that in a second. So anyway, first things first, let's figure out how to draw curves on a surface. I want you to note over here, we have, I'm in edit mode in the curve, because you have to be in edit mode. And there's this thing that says annotate, and then there's this thing that says draw, and they look too goddamn close, I tell you, because they need to go in and redesign these things, or maybe I just need to be more attentive, because when I first did this, I went over into annotate, and I was like, hey, look, I can draw, oops, I'm drawing on this guy's head, and these are my curves, and why aren't they, why am I not seeing any geometry or anything? It's because, well, I'm an idiot, and I don't know enough about Blender yet. And I was like, okay, so this is not the curve, this is annotate. And then I had to get rid of them. So that's over under, where is that? That is under No, view. Oh yeah, under view, and then annotations. And so what you'll see under annotations is note. So, so I'll show you again. So just watch annotations over here, and I'll draw a line, and then it creates a new note. And then I suppose I could press plus and add a new annotation, but I don't want to. So anyway, get rid of that. So don't do what I did and mistake annotate for draw a curve, because again, they look very similar. So I'm going to draw a curve. So in order to draw them directly onto the surface, you need to go up to snap. And there are a bunch of options for snap. And I'm guessing that this is correct. I don't know 100%. I was just like, okay, if I was wanting to snap on a curve and surface, what would I do? So snap with closest. So snap the point on closest point on target. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure that once you press snap, you set this to, I did face project. Could be face nearest would be the better one. I don't know. And that was really all I needed to do, I think. So I'm going to again go to draw, not annotate, and then draw on this guy's head. So there we go. It's drawn on the surface. But you'll notice it's not really following the surface all that well. So one thing you can do is increase the resolution of the line, because I think by default it's just 3 verts. And so if you can select all of them, I'm just going to do that initially, and then I'm going to right click and then do subdivide. And because you are drawing on the surface, it knows that it wants, and also probably because you have snap on. So I'm going to, but still not enough resolution, so I'm going to go, I'm going to subdivide this. And it's probably good to not subdivide too much initially, because you got to position. In fact, I'm going to undo that one, because you got to position this hair curve on the head, and if you have to drag 20 verts along, so it's probably better to subdivide later. So anyway, so yeah, so we have a curve. Excellent. Give yourself a pat on the back. We have a curve. I'm going to take it out of edit mode, and I'm going to create a new curve. But this curve is going to be the thing that's used to, let's see, what do they call it? Anyway, it's used to project along the surface, or along the curve here. So what you do is you create another curve, and in this case, I'm just going to create a circle. Boom. It's a big fat circle, because this guy's, I got the scale wrong with this guy, so everything is way bigger. So I'm going to, oh, and one thing that you probably already know, but I found that like anytime you're going to do something, whether it's rotate or scale or anything like that, if you're too close to an object, when you are too close to the center, and then you press S or R or whatever, it essentially accelerates that behavior really quite a bit, and so it sometimes gets hard to control. So if you want to do like finer control, then move your cursor out a little farther, and then say, so for instance, if I want to do R, if I get really close, it's gonna start just going all over the place. Don't want to do that. So if I want to be more gentle in my rotations, I can do R out here, and then the pivot point, and then it's way easier to control. Same with scale. So I could be right here, S, and then it's like, oh Jesus, okay, we're going everywhere. Instead, you want to be out here, press S, and then it's much easier to control. So anyway, so what we're going to do, because this is going to be projected along that curve, you don't want it to be this big. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a big, giant, fat tube. So you want to make it about as small as you need it to be. So I'm going to move it up to, we got to make it a lot smaller. And we'll go right about there. And so we can, all the curves have, over here, there's this data thing. It looks like a curve, but I assume that's a generic data icon. Path animation, turn path animation off, because we're not, oh yeah, that's right. So anyway, this is a weird name. I find it weird. It's called bevel. I think it should be more just like profile curve or profile or something like that. But anyway, it's you can have it just be a round object, which is I guess some default, which depth Oh yeah, so I guess it's just a tube. You can use this if you want. And again, my scales on this character are really whack, so 0.02 makes it a big fat tube like that. But what I want to do is I can use profile, and so if I use profile, then I can start cranking away here, and then use the depth, and then it gives me this shape, which, you know, that could be an option, but that's not really what I'm going for. What I want to do is to be able to use our little friend up here, this circle. I want to use an object, and so I just use the eyedropper. If you can either use the eyedropper, or if you, and I have named things horribly, so when I click on this, you're just going to see Bezier circle and NURBS path, and I couldn't tell you which is which, so I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to click this and then click the object. All right, so now we have a big fat curve. There's some other idiosyncrasies that I'm going to get to in a second as well, but okay, so we're not quite there. But basically what that does is it says, okay, take this circle and use it to create the shape along the curve. So I can move the vertices of the curve, and it'll change the shape of this thing. If I go press tab, press this, and G, so you can see. So that's what it does. And then if I want to change the shape, okay, so what we're seeing is some, well, it's not hair looking yet, but it's, well, yeah, it's that. Anyway, so what we want to be able to do is along the curve, so I don't want to do this. So you just take a look, and it's probably this curve, or this point. Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm going to need to do is get some more resolution here. So I'm going to subdivide. So subdivide, and I'll subdivide. So what happens if we do this? So we'll go. So okay, I'm getting some not hair-looking things, but and then we'll subdivide these. Well, just hey, let's go crazy and subdivide them all. And then we'll take that point. Wait, do I have the point? Nope, I have the handle. Point. Point. And so now we have this weird looking thing. Looks horrible, but I'm okay with that. And we'll just shrink it down, because this is a demo. But not that that's much of an excuse. Okay, so now we have that, and so now we need to go back into object mode. Now what we want to be able to do is see these guys have fatter at this end, taper down to 0 at this end. So how do you do that? So you do that, basically each one of these vertices has an ability to transform. You can change it in one way or another. You can rotate it or spin it on its axis, and you can scale it. And documentation somewhere calls the scale the radius, which technically is true, and I actually like the word radius, but they use S as in scale for the hotkey, and it's actually Alt S. And I would prefer, for consistency's sake, if you're going to call something radius, then make it Alt R, not Alt S. Anyway, I digress. All right, so we have, so what I'm going to do first is scale this end down to nothing. So the way you do that is you press not Alt R, Alt S, and 0. So just like anything else in Blender, if you are transforming and you know precisely how you want to transform it, whether you're translating it in space, rotating it, scaling it, or whatever, and along which axis, you can press the activation key, which is, in this case, scale. And we don't have to do an axis because there really aren't any axes along this curve. So so we press Alt or Control S, no, Alt S, sorry, and that puts us in scale mode. So if you can see, I can make it bigger or fatter. But just since I know that I want it to be down to 0, I'm just going to press 0, and it makes it scale 0 now. And then what you want to do is just Alt S again, taper. This is another reason why you don't want to subdivide early. Oh, see. So I'm going to move my cursor out here, press Alt S, and then I have much easier time. Okay, go out here, scaling these without it going freaky. So, and this guy, and this guy. Oh, all right. Okay, and that's pretty much it. And because I took it off Snap, I can move it. But I can keep it on Snap. But as you saw, if it's on Snap, then other things I want to do gets all messy. So what I like to do, and I say I like to do this because I just learned how to do it and it seems to work. And I did it once today. So that's about it. So is to essentially shrink wrap this curve to the dude's head. And the way you do that is you go up into modifiers, you do add modifier, and under form, you do shrink wrap. And it's going to look weird once I do this. So my target object is Mr. Dome Head here. And so basically what that initially does is instead of taking just the curve, it takes all the geometry and then projects it onto his head. So now just shrink wrapped his head, all that geometry to his head. So it's basically just flat against his head now, all the geometry. But one thing I learned today, again, new to Blender, is this little option here called Apply on Spline. I'm not 100% sure what all this is for, what all the different things it can be used for, but I know that when I press it, boom, it only applies the modifier to the curve. Again, I may be misusing this. This may not be the intended purpose, but now if I go and press this and try to move it, it's going to follow. I'm pretty sure. I try to pull it away. It's not coming off the surface. And so that's how I can now grab all of these guys and move them around, and they're going to follow his big fat chrome dome. And that's it. And then when you're done, if you want to move it off of this surface so that you're, in this case, ahead, then you just go up here and then you apply it. And then that shape is baked there, but then you're free to move it along anywhere if you want to curl it up off of the surface or anything like that. So that's about it. Thank you for hanging in there with me, if you have. I don't care if you press like, subscribe, or anything like that. Again, whether this percolates up to do anything, if anybody sees this, awesome. If not, then I'm just talking to myself, which is pretty much what I do all the time anyway. So I'll probably do another one of these. I'll probably do a lot shorter, but that's it.